I've taken this one simply because of the freshness of the language. Let me read you the story. One of the Pharisees asked him over for a meal. He went to the Pharisee's house and sat down at the dinner table. Just then a woman of the village, the town harlot, having learned that Jesus was a guest in the home of the Pharisee, came with a bottle of very expensive perfume and stood at his feet, weeping, raining tears on his feet. Letting down her hair, she dried his feet, kissed them, and anointed them with perfume. When the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, if this man was a prophet that I thought he was, he would have known that this what kind of woman this was who was falling all over him. Jesus said to him, Simon, I have something to tell you. Oh, tell me. 2 men were in debt to a banker who owed 500 silver pieces, the other 50. Neither of them could pay up. And so the banker cancelled both debts. Which of the two would be more grateful? Simon answered, I suppose the one who was forgiven the most. That's right, said Jesus. Then turning to the woman, but speaking to Simon, he said, do you see this woman? I came to your home. You provided no water for my feet, but she rained tears on my feet and dried them with her hair. You gave me no greeting, but from the time I arrived, she hasn't quit kissing my feet. You provided nothing for freshening up, but she has soothed my feet with perfume. Impressive, isn't it? She was forgiven many, many sins, and so she is very, very grateful. If the forgiveness is minimal, the gratitude is minimal. Then he spoke to her, I forgive your sins. That set the dinner guests talking behind his back. Who does he think he is, forgiving sins? He ignored them and said to the woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. It's a strange scene. Culturally, we're not used to that type of thing. But, you know, there was a contrast. He was contrasting the woman's simple faith and trust with that of the Pharisee, who was so proud that he couldn't even provide the basic hospitality needs, water to wash the feet, water to wash the hands. Jesus contrasts this woman's action with the Pharisees. Wherever Seventh-day Adventists and the Christian Church have gone, they have endeavoured to lift the status of women. I've seen that as a missionary in Papua New Guinea, where I worked for 7 years. Seen that in Fiji, where we worked for 5 years at Fulton. I walked into this computer lab at Sonoma some years ago because I had been at their reunion, their first ever reunion, 31 years they were celebrating. And they were raising $90,000 for computers. And I said, look, your roof needs painting. This needs doing. You put all your money into that and I'll go back and get business people in Sydney to give you good second-hand computers. And so I wanted to see the computers that we'd sent out. And I discovered this lady who was the teacher, Miss Polly, and I said, did you come from a family from Manus? Oh, she said, you wouldn't know my father and mother. They died when I was just a little girl. I hardly remember them. Oh, I said, well, I taught Akia Poley, and I taught Jochebed, who he married. She said, that's my mother and father. And she said, tell me what they were like. Yeah, isn't it interesting? You know, when I looked at her face, I said to myself, I know somebody in your family line. Yeah, her eyes could tell me. The shape of her face said, I knew those people. And when she said her name was Polly, immediately I thought of that. Yeah. The second point I want to make. We've made the point that wherever Jesus went, wherever the Christian gospel has gone, wherever this Bible has been printed and people have read it, the status of women has been lifted in that culture. The second point I want to make is that he recognized the importance of children and valued them in society. In the Old Testament times, children were sacrificed to Baal and Ashtoreth. The Romans abandoned children. The church has had a stance against just abortion at will over the years, because human life has a dignity about it. You know, the Egyptians could kill thousands, tens of thousands of children, but Christianity has always condemned that. Children have been abandoned. We see that even in our own city, don't we? Children have been chased away from home, and so you have so many homeless. And Christians reach out and touch the lives of people in that situation. Other cultures have sacrificed children, but Christianity, wherever it has gone, has condemned such practices. We talked about abortion. Suicide is condoned in some cultures, in some places, but Christians see it as a violation of the commandment, you shall not murder. Have a look at this text. The people brought children to Jesus, hoping he might touch them. There's something about the touch of Jesus. Something about the touch of Jesus. He brought healing, and in that touch brought love. The disciples shooed them off, but Jesus was irate and let them know it. Don't push these children away. Don't ever get between me and them. Yeah? These children are at the very center of life in the kingdom. And you know, in the church, children need to be at the center, at the very center. Notice what it says, mark this, unless you accept God's kingdom, in the simplicity of a child, you'll never get in. Then gathering the children up in his arms, he laid his hands of blessing on them. Wherever Christians have gone, they have multiplied schools. Wherever Seventh-day Adventists have gone, schools have developed. We have the biggest school system of any Protestant organisation. It's bigger than any Protestant. The only church group that is bigger are the Roman Catholic. Isn't that interesting? Because we have seen the importance of education. And wherever you go, doesn't matter whether it's Fiji on the little, one of the smaller islands there, Vadavono school there. You know, we have children's ministries. There's special segments sometimes in church for children. Jesus said, let the children come to me and do not hinder them. Children are loved by Seventh-day Adventists, loved by Christians. That's the biblical kind of concept. So children have value. They have incredible worth because they are part of God's kingdom. So we've looked at women, we've looked at children. Jesus has made a difference to the genders. He's made a difference to the little ones. The third thing is that he treated the sick with dignity and healed the worst of diseases. You think of the time in which Jesus lived. Lots of lepers, cast outs from society. But Jesus was the one who brought healing. Have a look at Luke. Then he gave his answer. Go back and tell John what you have seen and heard. The blind see, the lame walk, lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised. The wretched of the earth have God's salvation, hospitality extended to them. It was Christians who built the first hospitals and continue with their healing ministry. Some people say, well, why do you have such a big hospital at Wahroonga? You know, when Seventh-day Adventists first came to this land, they built first a church, then a school, and then a hospital. And we have, you know, clinics all through the islands. A part of our message is the ministry of healing.